Welcome back to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into a topic that's reshaping how enterprises actually work. Agentic AI in enterprise workflows, specifically multi-agent orchestration and EU compliance. Sam, thanks for joining me. This feels like a pretty pivotal moment in AI adoption. We're moving past the chatbot era, aren't we?
Absolutely, Alex. And the numbers back that up. We're seeing 71% of enterprises exploring or actively deploying agentic AI systems right now. But what's really striking is that 60% of Fortune 500 CIOs have multi-agent orchestration as their top infrastructure priority. This isn't hype. It's a fundamental shift in how organizations solve complex problems at scale.
So, let's unpack that. What's the real difference between a traditional chatbot and these multi-agent systems you're talking about? Because I think a lot of listeners probably interact with chatbots every day and might wonder, what's actually changing here?
Great question. A traditional chatbot is reactive and single-purpose. You ask it something, it answers, and that's it. If you need help with a customer service issue that also requires inventory checks and procurement coordination, the chatbot can't do that without someone manually programming every single handoff. Multi-agent systems are different. They're autonomous. One agent plans the workflow, delegates to specialists, and they all collaborate to solve the problem end to end.
So it's like having a team of specialists working together instead of one person answering phones. And I imagine that complexity has real business implications. What are organizations actually seeing in terms of ROI or operational improvement?
The data is compelling. Enterprises using multi-agent systems report a 42% reduction in time to resolution for complex workflows. And for first contact resolution, that's where customers get their problems solved without escalation, they're seeing 58% improvement. Meanwhile, 64% of enterprises managing isolated chatbot systems say they're spending 35 to 50% more annually just on redundant tooling and separate audit processes, so there's a real cost and efficiency argument here.
That's significant money. But here's what I'm curious about, and I know this is especially relevant in Europe. Compliance must be a major factor in how you actually build and deploy these systems. What does the EU AI Act actually demand from agentic systems?
The EU AI Act is very explicit about transparency, audit trails, and human oversight. It's not trying to ban agentic AI, but it does require that every decision an AI system makes, especially in high-risk domains, is traceable and explainable. For a multi-agent system, that means every agent action, every data lookup, every decision point has to be logged. This actually aligns well with good engineering practice, but it does add governance overhead that organizations need to plan for.
So compliance isn't a constraint. It's actually a design principle. Now let's talk technical foundations. You mentioned RAG earlier. What role does that play in a multi-agent orchestration system?
RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, is essentially the memory layer for agentic systems. Without it, agents are working off static training data, which gets stale and unreliable. With RAG, agents can query your actual knowledge base in real time: contracts, policies, customer history, inventory records. In a multi-agent workflow, RAG becomes the shared truth. When the order fulfillment agent queries customer data, it gets the same current information that the compliance agent is seeing. That consistency is critical for both performance and auditability.
That makes sense. So RAG keeps the system grounded in real data rather than hallucinations or outdated assumptions. Are there other technical pieces that are essential for orchestrating multiple agents effectively?
Yeah, a few. You need what's called a supervisor agent, essentially a conductor that decides which specialized agents to invoke and when. You need clear APIs and tool definitions, so agents know what they're capable of. And increasingly, you're seeing MCP, Model Context Protocol, emerge as a standard for how agents communicate and share context. These aren't new ideas, but bundling them into a coherent orchestration framework is what's maturing right now.
Let's ground this in reality. You mentioned in the article that there's a case study from Oulu, Finland. Can you walk us through what that organization actually did and what they achieved?
The Oulu case is really valuable because it shows this working in a regulated EU environment. They had a procurement and supply chain workflow that involved multiple disconnected systems: vendor management, inventory, compliance verification. With Agentic AI, they deployed specialized agents for vendor verification, inventory forecasting, and compliance checking. These agents shared context through a RAG layer connected to their knowledge base and ERP system. They automated the entire request-to-fulfill workflow while maintaining a complete audit trail for EU compliance.
What were the actual results they saw?
They reduced procurement cycle time by roughly 40%. More importantly, they eliminated the manual compliance verification step that was creating bottlenecks. And because every agent action was logged, they had a clean audit trail for EU AI Act compliance audits. The system was also designed with human-in-the-loop checkpoints. Agents could escalate uncertain decisions to humans, which satisfied the governance requirement while still automating the routine decisions.
That's a smart design. Automation where it's safe and efficient, human oversight where it matters. What would you say is the biggest mistake or misconception you see organizations making as they move into agentic AI?
The biggest one? Thinking that agentic AI means no human involvement. That's not true, especially in regulated environments. Agentic systems should be designed with deliberate human escalation points. If an agent encounters a scenario it's uncertain about, it should escalate to a human, not forge ahead and create compliance liability. The other mistake is underestimating the governance up front. Building in audit trails, logging, and explainability from day one is much cheaper than retrofitting it later.
So it's about building responsibly from the start, not deploying first and dealing with compliance later. For someone listening who's considering agentic AI for their organization, what's the practical first step?
Start with a specific, bounded workflow, not your entire operation. Pick a process that's complex enough to benefit from orchestration, but contained enough to manage. Define your agent's roles clearly, wire up RAG to your actual knowledge base, and map out your compliance requirements up front. Don't treat them as an afterthought. Test with human oversight loops before you even think about reducing human touchpoints.
That's solid advice. Sam, as you look at the broader trend here, where do you think this is heading in the next 12 to 24 months?
I think we'll see agentic AI move from interesting pilot to competitive necessity very quickly. The efficiency gains are too significant to ignore. We'll also see more standardization around orchestration frameworks and compliance tooling, especially as EU AI Act requirements mature. And I expect we'll see more enterprises shift investment from building isolated AI features to building robust multi-agent architectures that can adapt and scale. The companies that move first and do it thoughtfully will have a significant competitive advantage.
Really insightful perspective. Sam, thanks so much for breaking this down. Listeners, if you want to dive deeper into the technical details, the Oulu case study, and specific implementation patterns, head over to etherlink.ai and check out the full article. Agentic AI in Enterprise Workflows, Multi-Agent Orchestration for EU Compliance. You'll find links to the research reports we cited and a detailed breakdown of the architecture decisions. Thanks for listening to EtherLink AI Insights. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Alex. Great conversation.